Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. So a couple years back, my buddy Dave and I had this routine where we'd help each other with the spring yard work. This meant cutting down dead trees, tilling the garden plots, and tackling those weed-infested lawns. You know how it goes. I was up first for the big cleanup, so the Friday before, I got everything prepped. Sharpening blades, mixing gas, and two-cycle oil for the equipment. The whole 9 yards. Knocked off pretty late that night, but left things ready to roll for Saturday morning. Dave shows up at 8 a.m. sharp with coffee and donuts. We're kicking it on his truck tailgate, chowing down, when these two jabronis in a rusted-out Chevy Cobalt go chugging by, leaving a smoke trail like a locomotive. Let's call these guys Beavis and Butthead. Dave and I can't help cracking jokes about that poor excuse for a car, probably running on pure oil with how it's smoking. We have a good laugh and dive into the day's work once breakfast wraps up, not thinking much more about Beavis and Butthead's junker. Tools laid out, it's time to grab the gas cans, but they're nowhere to be found. No mixed gas for the two-stroke engines, no plain gas for the mowers, nothing. That's when the light bulb clicks. The reason that Cobalt was belching smoke was that those two morons had swiped my gas cans. I was fuming, let me tell you. Long story short, Dave and I had to make a supply run to reload on gas cans, fuel, and two-cycle oil before we could really get cracking. Still, we powered through my place that weekend, leaving Dave's for the next one. Sure enough, a week or two later, we're over at my wife's grandparents' place for a family dinner. Most folks had left by the evening, and I'm shooting the breeze with my wife's Gramps over a few drinks. Nature calls, so I head to the bathroom, and wouldn't you know it, there's my unmistakable gas can just sitting there. Gramps says Beavis and Butthead left it behind on one of their visits. No questions asked, I tossed that sucker in my truck before we left. Every time I saw that smoke-billowing Cobalt puttering by after that, it just ate at me. So I decided it was payback time. Picked up some gas, diesel, assorted oils, the works, and cooked up a wicked little cocktail that was definitely not car-friendly. Topped off my spare 6-gallon can with this rotten concoction, taking care to do some mowing with fresh gas beforehand so Beavis and Butthead would see me working on the lawn. Then I forgot to bring that tainted gas can inside when I was done. Next morning, I'm out the door for work. Don't even cross my mind to check on that can. Get home that evening, and sure enough, it's gone. But the look on my wife's face said it all. She saw the whole thing go down with those two stooges swiping the can, that poor Cobalt wheezing and sputtering even worse than usual as they peeled out. By the last spastic lurch out of our street, it was clearly on its last legs. Didn't see them come back after that. Give it an hour or so, Beavis and Butthead are knocking on my door, asking if I can take a look at their crapped-out ride, maybe tow it home if it's not an easy fix. Playing it cool, I tell them I've had a rough day, splitting headache, maybe we can look at it tomorrow. The panic on their faces when they realized they were stuck on the side of the road, no insurance, nothing. Beautiful. Well, sure enough, Highway Patrol came across that junker eventually and had it towed to the impound lot. Beavis and Butthead were looking at around $500 just to get it out. Plus they needed current registration and insurance before they could claim it. Needless to say, that bucket of bolts wasn't worth the hassle. Here's the kicker, though. These guys are just massively lucky dopes. Their pastor buddy hooked them up with an old Ford Taurus as a freebie soon after. Didn't take me too many doses of my special rotten egg juice before that thing started acting up too. This time it finally crapped out in their grandparents' driveway rather than stranding them somewhere. Into the junkyard it went. You'd think their bizarre luck would run out, but sure as crap, their tax return came through around then and they went out and bought themselves a used F-150 pickup. Couldn't make this stuff up. Well, it wasn't long before that thing started running rough and smoking like a freight train again. They actually took it to a real mechanic this time instead of trying their own shady repair work. Guy found the issue, got it squared away for them after about $1,500 in repairs. Ever since then, wouldn't you know, I haven't had a single drop of gas go missing around here. Funny how that works out, huh? The next one is an entitled people story. When my wife and I bought our first house, we were excited to finally have a place of our own. The house was in a nice neighborhood with a homeowners association, so we knew there would be some rules to follow, but we didn't think it would be a big deal. Boy, were we wrong. After moving in, we started getting notices from the homeowner association about minor things like our trash cans being visible from the street on non-pickup days. Annoying, but we made sure to comply. Then came the letter saying we had to paint our front door because the red color wasn't on the approved paint colors list. We gritted our teeth and repainted it. The last straw was when we got a notice saying we had to remove the basketball hoop from our driveway because portable basketball hoops weren't allowed. Now that made me mad. I understood keeping things looking uniform, but a basketball hoop wasn't hurting anyone. I decided to go to the next homeowner association meeting and politely argue my case for why the basketball hoop ban was unreasonable. The homeowner association president, a guy named Hank, who was about 60 years old, patronizingly explained they were trying to maintain property values and that sports equipment in driveways was unsightly. I pointed out that our driveway was pretty much invisible from the street, so it shouldn't impact anyone else's property value. But Hank wasn't hearing it. He said the homeowner association had voted on this measure and I was just going to have to comply. I shook my head and said I wouldn't be removing the basketball hoop since it wasn't harming anything. Hank's face turned red, and he said if I didn't comply, I'd face fines or other legal action. I told Hank he should check with a lawyer first, since I don't think he can tell me what I can and can't have on my own private property. A week later, I was shooting hoops with my son when a police car pulled up. An officer got out and informed me he was there to investigate a complaint about an unauthorized roadblock on my property. I was completely puzzled and explained it was just my driveway with a basketball hoop. That's when the officer told me Hank had filed a complaint saying I was illegally blocking a public road. I was floored. This guy was so on a power trip that he tried to claim my private driveway was a public road just so he could get me in trouble for not removing my basketball hoop. I showed the officer my property line and proved the driveway was on my private property. The officer was really apologetic. He said he'd have to notify Hank that falsely reporting a public roadblock was against the law. A few days later, I got a letter from a lawyer representing the homeowner association stating I had to remove my basketball hoop due to homeowner association rules against unsightly structures. But it didn't mention anything about my driveway or a public roadblock. I decided two could play at the lawyer game, so I had my own real estate attorney send a strongly worded letter to the homeowner association lawyer and board members. It explained that my driveway was private property and any attempt to claim otherwise was fraudulent and illegal, and it restated I had no plans to remove the basketball hoop. Shortly after, I was contacted by a different lawyer who apologized profusely on behalf of the homeowner association. They said Hank had been removed as president, and they regretted the basketball hoop misunderstanding. I let them know I was planning legal action against Hank personally for falsifying a police report. The new homeowner association lawyer said they understood and would not object to me suing him. They also reassured me the basketball hoop rule was going to be reconsidered at the next meeting, so I decided to go easy on the homeowner association and just focus my legal wrath on Hank. My lawyer helped me file a civil lawsuit against him for abusing his authority as homeowner association president to make a false police report and harass me. We presented the evidence showing my driveway was private property and Hank had intentionally lied to use police resources as retaliation. The judge agreed that Hank was clearly in the wrong. The court ordered him to pay a hefty fine for the false police report as well as damages for my legal fees and emotional distress. Hank also had to write a formal letter of apology admitting what he had done. It was so satisfying to see that power-hungry jerk get some legal comeuppance. Without proper oversight, people like Hank will just keep abusing what little authority they have. In the end, the homeowner association did vote to allow removable basketball hoops, so my son and I can keep playing. And now that Hank is gone, they seem to be a much more reasonable homeowner association. We definitely have to stay vigilant to protect our property rights, but I'm hopeful things will be smoother from here on out. The next one is a petty revenge story. I got word that my office was firing some people and it was due to less hours to go around. Funny enough, they are still posting on Indeed for new workers. That said, my bestie who taught me a lot in the industry was on the chopping block and was let go. However, it wasn't all her fault. She was a new hire. She fell with the 3 months probation time. Not saying the job was bad, but it has been 6-7 months since my work bestie left, and I was going to leave when she did, but the company kept stringing me along with promises of more hours and a better work truck. So I stayed. Last week, Friday, one of my foremen told me to my face that the girl beside me was better at her job than me. It hurt my feelings, but I moved on. Monday morning, my bosses called me and asked why I wasn't allowed back on that site I was on Friday. I said I had no clue, but because of that, they took me off the schedule for 3-4 days. Days off I didn't ask for. They also punished me for a contract that ended a month ago due to me doing something someone senior than me told me to do, which is not relevant to the story. They lacked the communication to tell me I was suspended. So, I called a friend from an old company yesterday and asked if he was busy with work, and he told me he was. I moved over to his company. While I did that, I called my other job and told them I quit. They gave me some runaround answer and demanded I come in and work for them on Thursday when I wasn't on the schedule. In fact, they tried to tell me I was scheduled all week, but they canceled my shifts before they started, which baffled me. I said no, that I thought they were suspending me since I had all these days off. I proceeded to tell them I had received an offer and I took it, and I would like somebody to pick up my work truck, since they were so accommodating to me to not tell me about me being suspended. They told me to take time out of my personal day to drive to the office and drop it off. Now I know they are a good company, but their business practices are the craps. To send a message that they stink, I took 6 black ice little air fresher trees and I stink bombed the work truck. I put one in the rearview mirror to at least say there was one in there to make it smell nice, but it's the other 5 they will be looking for. That's what will make it stink for a long time to come. I know they switch the trucks often, so that beast will be making some poor bastard's eyes water for months on end. To me, the black ice smell gives me a headache. I will let you know if my plan works out. My bestie still keeps tabs on people over there, so I won't be surprised of how well this turns out. The next one is a malicious compliance story. So this happened about 7-8 years ago in a busy Australian public hospital. We were having the busiest day in radiology when one of the admin staff asks about a patient getting a scan today. I explained to her as she knows we are fully booked and are really busy. I note the referral asking for a scan to be done in the next 4 weeks. It was routine follow-up and has no clinical urgency as per the request. She says the patient is demanding it today. I tell her once again non-urgent scans can't come ahead of life-threatening illness and trauma we need to scan. The admin staff returns 5 minutes later saying the patient is causing quite the scene and states he'll wait all day if he has to. I have 2 options. Option 1, call security and come kick this man out or comply with his demand. I tell the admin he can have his scan, but he might literally wait all day. This was about 10 a.m. Come 12 p.m., the chief radiographer comes and sees me to say there is man complaining about a 2-hour wait. I explain the situation and say if I get 10 minutes, which I won't scan the patient. The chief radiographer sees the waiting irate man and offers to book him in a few days' time. The patient reiterated that he waits all day if he has to. The chief radiographer advised it's his choice. He is informed that if he had an appointment, he would likely not have to wait long. Come 3 p.m., we get another complaint from him, which we ignore. Again, he is offered another time later in the week. He refuses to book in. Come 5 p.m., I hand over to the afternoon shift in charge and explain about our waiting patient. We move the patient from the outpatient's waiting room to the inpatient waiting room where it is bedlam. He again is offered another appointment and told the wait is now about 2 hours. He says he has waited this long, he might have well wait some more. Trolleys and wheelchairs are going every which way. He sits down and suddenly the situation dawns on him how busy we are with sick patients. You could just see it in his face. The next day I find out our irate patient waited until 7:30 p.m. and was rather sheepish when brought in for scan and quite apologetic. Patient demands non-urgent radiology scan and say he will wait all day for it, and he does. The next one is an entitled people story. My 31F brother, 25M, has always been an entitled brat. He has lived in my house. My mom and I bought and renovated it for 5 years now. He didn't start contributing to the household bills until about 2 years ago, and he makes sure to throw that in mine and my mom's faces every month as if it's some big favor. He has always complained about living here and how miserable he is because he's treated so poorly. He's treated like a prince by my mom. And the house is such a mess. His room used to be our studio space where my mom and I kept our workspaces and supplies. I'm a designer and my mom is an artist. When he moved in, we turned our living room into a makeshift office for ourselves, so our supplies are kept on various shelving units in our living space. My brother has always complained about how cluttered and dirty the house is and how he hates living here, blah blah. I've told him repeatedly that if he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to live here. He said I should accommodate him instead because he's family and families should respect each other. It's a small house and we were doing our best with what little space we have. But he says it's embarrassing that we don't even have a space for a couch and TV. We used to until he moved in. 2 months ago, he announced that he is being forced to move in with his GF because he can't live like this anymore. Because my mother and I are just so awful for asking him to help with the bills and have the audacity to have our workspaces in the living room. Since he informed us of this, he hasn't packed a single box, and he refuses to give me any kind of time frame. But I overheard him telling his dad he expects to move out in September. Today I came home to a bunch of stuff, including kitchen items like sodas and snacks, stacked in my room and on my work desk, which had my laptop and my design drawings on the tabletop. I was confused and annoyed because I was afraid they had been crushed. I asked my mom if she did that. She told me it was my brother. I went to him to ask why the hell he did that and that I didn't appreciate him moving my crap and potentially ruining my work. He went off on me saying he made an executive decision to finally clean up. I laughed because he has his own bathroom and the largest bedroom and they're both filthy. He decided my mom's and my things needed to be allocated to our spaces and kept out of the communal spaces, the kitchen and dining area. His logic was, since I'm the only one who consumes certain sodas and snacks, that they need to be kept in my room. None of his foods or drinks were taken out of the kitchen. Anything that he didn't deem worthy of being in the communal spaces, he just tossed into a pile on mine and my mother's desks and in our rooms. Mind you, his shoes, moving boxes, and bags are all over the hallway. My mom and I always have to step over his crap when we walk by his room and we don't move anything. I told him he needs to respect our things and our space. He said it's not for me to dictate. I said, yes it is, it's my house. But he wouldn't hear of it. He screamed at me saying I had to thank him for cleaning my mess, and that I better apologize for being so ungrateful. I reminded him he's moving out, so why would he be so bothered about how my house looks? I told him I can't organize anything until he moves out, and he lost his crap saying, how ducking dare you? I guess you can't wait for me to leave. I rolled my eyes and told him that not everything I say and do is a personal attack on him. He was screaming at me, saying that my power trip is my way of abusing him. I got fed up by that point and walked away to avoid losing my cool. It takes a very deluded person to make demands and set rules that never seem to apply to him in someone else's home. The entitlement. The next one is an entitled parent's story. I have been working every single day for a month without a day off because I wanted to go on a vacation with my friends after graduation. I worked so hard for this. I was saving them in my drawer and there's a lock on it, so wherever I go, I take the key with me. So today my stupid ass forgot the key on the dining table. I went to the bathroom to shower. Nobody was home except my mother and me. My siblings were at school having an exam, so when I finished showering, I saw the keys on my room. I didn't care. I thought maybe I moved it before I went to the bathroom. Then I prepared my desk to study. When I finished studying, I thought maybe I could go hang out with my friends, so I opened my drawer and the money was gone, all of it, nothing left. So obviously nobody's home except me and my mom. I confronted her as calm as I could and I said, "Did you open my drawer?" I swear I noticed her hands were shaking and she said, "No, I didn't. Why?" I said, "Well, my money's gone," she said. "I didn't take anything. Someone's stealing my money as well, or maybe you dropped it somewhere like you always do, you carless donkey." I said, "Well, if someone's stealing your money, why would you take mine?" She said, "You don't dare talk to me like that. I'm your mother. Close the door and get out of my sight before I pray that you'll fail the exams. What are you going to do with money anyway, you still young? Money come and go." I didn't know what to say, and I went back to my room and texted my dad and told him what's happened, and he still didn't respond to me. My final exams are in 2 weeks and I can't work anymore, and me and my friends, planning that on the last day of the exam, we'll head straight to Sharm el-Sheikh. This is the first time in my entire life that I feel so helpless and betrayed like that. After graduation, I'll move out of my parents' home, even if I become homeless. I don't care anymore. The next one is an entitled people story. I work for a small moving company in my city. We move furniture and decor to many different places throughout the city. We got a call about moving a large load of bookshelves to a rather large industrial building. We loaded up 2 18-foot box trucks full of shelves and were ready to move. When we arrived at the building, we pulled around to the loading dock and began offloading the shelves. As we were bringing stuff off the truck, I went to building security to open the door. There had been a recent string of shootings in our area and everyone was locking all the doors. They handed me a doorstop and told me I could prop the door open since we have a large load. So I propped open the door and we got going. We no more had the first pallet off the truck when the building's maintenance manager came running towards us. He screamed at us, "What are you doing? You can't have that door propped open." Now, this man looked like he was somewhere between the ages of 76 and 105. He was as red as I've ever seen anyone. I calmly told him that security gave me a doorstop and told me since we have such a large load, we could keep the door propped open. Of course, he wasn't having it. "I don't care what security told you, you cannot have this door propped open." At this point, my Native American temper got the better of me. I replied, "Yes, sir." I walked over to the door and picked up the doorstop. I walked back to security and explained the situation. They rolled their eyes and explained that this crotchety old fossil is always causing problems all over the building. They told me I could still prop open the door, but now I was mad and was feeling petty. "He doesn't want us to prop the door open?" Alrighty then. There was a buzzer outside of the door, so I buzzed security asking them if they could open the door. Well, guess whose office was right by said door, and thus guess who security called to open the door and let us in? That's right, Fossil Man that was 2 days older than dirt. He opened the door and let us in. We made our delivery and came back to grab another pallet. I again buzzed security, and they again asked Fossil Man to let us in. This happened twice more before he stopped me and said, "You know, if you wanted to keep that door open, you can, since you have such a big load." I replied with the biggest smile on my face, "Oh no, sir, this door cannot be propped open. I wouldn't want to upset anyone by doing that." He looked at me with a look on his face that was somewhere between murderous and the realization that he had made a huge mistake. 18 pallets later, we had the load delivered. And every single time, guess who had to let us in? It took us a little over 2 hours to get everything finished. The last pallet we delivered, I poked my head into Fossil Man's office and said, "Thank you so much for your help." I'm pretty sure he popped a blood vessel. The next story is titled, FHOA Gets Harassed by HOA I'm Not a Part of, and have refused to join. So, I purchased my property in a quasi-non-voluntary HOA enforced sale. I cleared the liens, which were disclosed prior to my purchase, and have been fixing up the property. I'm currently living in an RV I have parked in the front yard. I have it up on concrete blocks. Totally in violation of the HOA, but I'm not a member. The interior of the house is not livable. Pretty bad hoarding situation, and I have a standing order with the trash company to have a 10-yard bin that gets swapped out every Friday. I predict another 2 to 3 months until that service can be cancelled. The dumpster every week is on top of bags of clothing that goes to Goodwill and all the crap I put up on Craigslist and eBay for sale. Plus, I have enough shampoo and conditioner to keep my hair silky smooth and smelling of springtime for the next 50 years. The HOA has been harassing me to join. I thought we settled the argument, but screw them. They also attempted to have my RV towed off my front yard. Fortunately, I had already made efforts to prevent it from being towed. Namely, I called the towing company the HOA had a contract with, and my lawyer explained the situation. They also started sending me fines in the mail, and I'm adding them to the harassment file. Not being dumb enough to be sued, the towing company agreed that they wouldn't tow any vehicle from any space that could be defined as 123 Oak Street without my direct authorization, including but not limited to the driveway, garage, front yard, or street in front of 123 Oak Street. We also saw a way for them to profit from the situation. This is my pro-revenge on them. We have a standing deal that they can drive the tow truck to my house, then they knock on my door and ask if I called the tow. If I say no, they charge the HOA for wasting their time, and if I don't answer, they can still charge the HOA for wasting their time. The towing company hit them for about $500 before they caught on to the deal that they made with me. Some good news, I've successfully gotten into the bathroom and cleaned out all the children's clothing and decades-old pizza boxes and bags of onion peels. So after a great deal of elbow grease, I might actually be able to shower in my house soon. The next story is titled Neighbor War. My neighbors, both him and her, have whined about a lot of little things over the last 8 years. Bad enough that they are the only reason we would move away. We have considered it many times. Early this summer, they asked if they could heighten our shared fence from 7 feet to 9 feet. They offered to pay, but we said no, and then didn't hear anything for a few months. Then in early fall, they asked again and offered to pay again. I said no again. Then they came back with, "You don't complain about our fence, and we won't complain about your shed being too close to the other neighbor's fence." So I said, "Give me the weekend to think about it." I then spent the weekend moving my shed exactly 10 inches farther away from the fence, so it complied with city bylaws, and we haven't talked since. Not about the fence, not about anything. It's been 4 months. Super petty, but I am quite proud of this. The next story is titled, My Entitled Boss Almost Killed Me and Got Himself Arrested and Fired. I'm allergic to hand sanitizer, alcoholic wipes, generally anything that has alcohol-based products. I even bring my own soap because I can have a reaction to some soaps. I can't even drink the stuff without my lips swelling. My old boss was my cousin, so when COVID hit, I didn't really have a problem until my cousin got promoted and got transferred to a new office. Enter our new boss. We got a mass email going over our new COVID safety procedures, and one of the new procedures is that we all have to use hand sanitizer and antiseptic wipes. I sent an email to HR telling them about my allergies with medical documents. They sent back saying that I don't have to use the hand sanitizer and antiseptic wipes, and that they put it in my file. However, when I sent the exact email to my new boss, he replied saying that all employees have to follow the new COVID safety procedures, no exceptions. When I then replied that if I use those products, I'll need medical assistance, he then sent me another email saying that if any employee doesn't follow the new COVID safety procedures correctly, that they would be fired. I sent copies of the emails to our union rep and HR department, to which they replied that they would talk to him and kinda told me to ignore him unless he tries to actually fire me. So I go into work and my new boss is literally waiting for me at my desk with a bottle of hand sanitizer in his hands, asking me to hold out my hands. I replied saying, "No thanks, I'd rather not go to hospital today." He got mad and literally grabbed my hand and squirted sanitizer on it, then rubbed it in. Then said, "See, that wasn't so bad." I tried to go to the bathroom to wash it off, but he blocked me. Well, I had a bad reaction, thank God I had an EpiPen in my desk. My boss kept saying I thought he was lying, and kept saying that until I was put into the ambulance and couldn't hear him. A member of the HR department and the legal department came to visit me in hospital, probably making sure I don't sue, and informed me that he was fired. The woman from the HR department also said that they called the police on my behalf and I should be getting a visit from them soon. I can't talk about that as it's an ongoing investigation. ETA, I'm in Australia, so no medical fees. I'm not happy about the EpiPen, $40, they are expensive. Also, cops won't tell me anything. That's frustration. They did tell me that he's been ordered to stay away from me. So, he must be out of jail if he was ordered to stay away, right? I'm still in hospital hoping to be released today or tomorrow at the latest. I'll update when I get more information. The next story is titled, "Entitled Parents Stole My Switch and Held it Hostage Because I Wasn't Visiting Anymore." I'm 20M and moved out of my parents' house at 18 because I really can't stand them. And it's for all of the kinds of reasons you can guess. They were jerks, favored my younger siblings, used me as free childcare, told me what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine, and all that BS. When I left, my dad told me not to let the door hit me on my way out, and don't come back. I got the smallest and cheapest apartment I could find and have worked the same full-time job for 2 years. My parents didn't even hold out a month before calling me and begging me to come back home. Because without me, someone else had to watch my siblings. I refused because now I finally had time for myself. My dad eventually called me and actually demanded I move back home and pay them rent instead because family is more important than my personal independence. I said back to him that my life is important too. And for once, I'm getting to live for myself. So he basically said, well then see how long you can last without us, and we didn't talk for months. I don't know what he was hoping for. I managed well enough by myself. My family seemed to slowly accept that I wasn't going to come crawling back, and over time we seemed to mend things. I could tell they were having a hard time dealing with the fact that things were on my terms and not theirs. They begged me to watch my youngest siblings from time to time, even though the two that are closest to me in age are in their mid-teens now. But my parents don't want to put babysitting on them any more than they have to, which is hypocritical of them since they try to put it on me as much as possible. And yes, I have called them out on that. They responded with gaslighting and more months of silence yet again. And again, they were the ones to come crawling back to me for help. Not long ago, I bought myself a used Nintendo Switch, though could only afford one game for it at the moment, which is Mario Kart. I got it bundled with the console for a good deal. My mom came by on Saturday and asked me to watch my two younger siblings for a while. She basically pushed them in the door at me and ran. And I was stuck with these two rowdy kids all day in my tiny apartment. My mom didn't come back until after 9 p.m. And that was because I called her and made her come get the kids. And she really didn't like that I cut her fun time short. I said that unless she wanted to pay me, I wasn't going to be watching my siblings all day anymore. And next time I won't even open the door and I'll call the cops if she just leaves them outside. The next morning I realized I couldn't find my Switch anywhere, so I called my parents. And like I thought, one of my siblings took it. I said I was coming over to get it right away. But my mom said it could wait because my youngest sibling was gaming on it, and she didn't have the heart to take it away. I said it was taken without my permission, and I will be taking it back. I got on my bike and rode there ASAP. And when I arrived, my sibling was crying because the Switch's battery had gone dead and they didn't have the charger. I told them to give it back. But my dad took it and said I can have it back when I agree to start helping out with my siblings more. I told him if that's how he wanted to play this, I'd get police involved. And no, I was not bluffing. He dug his heels in and insisted I wouldn't do it. Until I pulled my phone out and started dialing. My mom yelled, "Wait!" and hurriedly took my Switch back from my dad. He called her a traitor and demanded she return it to him instead of me. but she said it wasn't worth having police called on them. Before leaving, I told them if this ever happens again, I'd be calling the police first. And if they want a switch for my siblings so bad, they can get their own. My dad yelled that I can't disrespect him like that. And I countered that, even though I'm an adult, he's not bothered to ever show an ounce of respect to me. And I'd had enough. Then I walked out with him yelling at me to come back and face him. Right now, it's back to silence from them. My mom texted me once, begging me to still watch my siblings. I said that if she wanted me to babysit so bad, she could pay me. And I'd only take the money in advance, because I'm not doing it for free anymore. Especially after they stole from me and tried to keep from returning my property. They don't own me, I'm an adult with my own place and my own life. And they can either get used to it or get lost. It's been over a week since that text combo, and none of them have as of yet talked to me again. Which is fine, they can deal with their own messes. The last story is titled Dog Adoption Fees. I've never posted on here before, but this definitely belongs. We had 2 dogs as of recently, and one of them passed away. She was old and lived a very nice life, so it was peaceful in a way. She had medical issues, so I'm glad she passed around the family she loved. She was larger, a golden mix, and our other dog is much smaller, so we decided to donate her stuff on Craigslist to someone who might be looking for a dog or already had one that needed supplies. I'm talking a high-quality bed, crate, all of her food, toys, etc. All for free. We got a response from a couple who initially seemed nice. They came over to get the stuff. They demanded that we also front the adoption fee for a dog they wanted because we were giving them this stuff, as if they expected it since we were giving them the supplies for a dog. My wife and I told them to kindly duck off. Drove this afternoon to a shelter instead and gave them everything we had. The next one is an entitled people story. Background: airline captain commuting to work, purchased a full-fare first-class ticket to get there. Lived in Atlanta at the time, domiciled in Houston, and commuted. Normally you could get a jump seat in the cockpit, but on this auspicious day, that was already taken. Pass riding wasn't an option because there were no seats in coach and only one in first. Pass riders can be bumped for fare-paying passengers, and I needed to get to work, so I plunked down my credit card and bought the last seat in first. Boarding has occurred, and I am peacefully in my seat, waiting for pushback. Cast of characters: me, commuting pilot; EW, entitled woman; FA, flight attendant; CPT, captain of the flight I'm on; EW, you are sitting in my seat. You'll need to move right now. Me, checks boarding pass. Nope, this is my seat. Not gonna happen. Sorry. EW, you're an employee. You're sitting in my seat. Move now. Me, may I see your boarding pass? Clearly there's been some mistake. EW, you may not see my boarding pass. I showed that when I boarded. I've upgraded to first class. Now move. Me, you'll need to resolve this with the flight crew. I'm a passenger. EW stomps off, resembling an irritated Dolores Umbridge, and returns with FA. FA, good morning, Captain. May I see your boarding pass? Me, sure thing. Shows boarding pass. FA, ma'am, that's his seat. He paid for it. EW, well then throw him off, dear. I've upgraded to first class, and that is now my seat. FA, I'll need to see your boarding pass, ma'am. EW, you will not. I showed it when I boarded. I've upgraded to first class. FA, how did you upgrade to first class? EW, I upgraded to first class. I'm more important than an employee. Now get him out of my seat. Someone has called the cockpit and the captain has left the flight deck to deal with this. Captain, ma'am, I'm Captain Wallaby, not his real name. I've just spoken with the gate agent. We certainly apologize for this awkward situation. The agent has corrected your paperwork and has a voucher for future travel for you as well. Please go fetch your new boarding pass and your voucher and we'll be on our way. EW departs up the jetway, a triumphant smile on her face. The captain turns to the FA and says, prepare the doors for departure. The doors close. The captain returns to the cockpit, and as we push back from the gate, I can see the EW pounding on the glass next to the jetway. It was a nice ride to Houston. The coffee was wonderful. The next story is titled, Mother-in-law steals my inherited property and calls cops on me for trespassing on my land and gets me sent to jail. I was overjoyed when I inherited my uncle's house. It was the perfect place for my wife and I to start our lives together. However, my luck took a downward turn when my mother-in-law got involved. She managed to obtain fake documents claiming that she was the true owner of the house, which ultimately led to my arrest for gun possession, trespassing, and theft. As the police entered my home, guns drawn and shouting for me to surrender, I was in a state of disbelief. I had never owned a gun and had no idea how it ended up in my house. Despite my protests of innocence, the police did not believe me. Matters only got worse when I discovered that my mother-in-law had convincing documents proving her ownership of the house. With my wife in a coma and no one else to turn to, I felt hopeless and scared that I would spend years in jail for a crime I did not commit. However, I was eventually released and sought the help of a lawyer friend. Together, we conducted an investigation into my mother-in-law's travel history and the fingerprint samples of the gun found in my home. To our surprise, we discovered that my mother-in-law had recently traveled to the country where the gun was smuggled in from, and the fingerprints matched hers, not mine. With this new evidence, the police finally started to believe my story and continued their investigation. After a long and difficult journey, the truth finally came out. It was revealed that my uncle had no connection to my mother-in-law, and the documents she had were fake. I was able to prove that I was the rightful owner of the house. Despite the relief I felt, I couldn't help but feel a sense of retribution towards my mother-in-law for the harm she caused me. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I staged a break-in at the house and planted evidence that implicated my mother-in-law in a crime. I made sure to call the police and report the break-in, and when they arrived, they found the evidence and arrested her. Although I knew it was wrong, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. As my mother-in-law's trial began, I was filled with a sense of victory. The evidence against her was strong, and it appeared that she would be found guilty. However, things took an unexpected turn when she revealed that she had hired a team of lawyers and private investigators who had uncovered some damaging secrets about my past. To my horror, I learned that I had been involved in illegal activities for years, and my mother-in-law had been gathering evidence against me all along. She had been waiting for the right moment to use it against me, and now she had the upper hand. I was facing a life sentence, and there seemed to be no way out. With my back against the wall, I refused to give up. I reached out to some old contacts and put together a team of my own, determined to uncover the truth and clear my name once and for all. Through our hard work and perseverance, we discovered that my mother-in-law was involved in even more criminal activities. In the end, she was sentenced to life in prison, and I was cleared of all charges. I learned from this experience that it's never too late to turn your life around and do the right thing. Despite the challenges I faced, I never gave up and was ultimately able to clear my name and start fresh with my wife by my side. The next story is titled, My Aunt Tried to Announce Her Daughter's Pregnancy at My Baby Shower for My Rainbow Baby. My husband and I are finally expecting our rainbow baby after years of infertility and multiple miscarriages. It's safe to say we and our family are very freaking excited. My mother is probably the most excited. She's been planning our baby shower and making decorations for months. She's been the biggest help during this exciting yet scary pregnancy. A few weeks ago, my aunt told my mother and I that my cousin is pregnant. We are very happy for her. However, my aunt said their plan is to announce her pregnancy at my baby shower, since we're having a big party anyways. She said it's not a big deal and we both can share the day. I said absolutely not, because we have been waiting for this day forever, and it should be all about me and my rainbow baby. My mother is on my side and told my aunt that they better not announce anything at the party. My aunt dropped it and nothing else was ever said. Last Saturday was my baby shower. It was everything I've waited for. Everything is going good. No one has announced my cousin's pregnancy. When it was time for us to eat my cake, my aunt said, hold on everyone, and went outside to her car to grab something. That was the moment I knew something was up. My mother and I follow her outside, and my aunt decided to bring a cake announcing my cousin's pregnancy, and some presents for my cousin. My mother immediately told my aunt that she will not be bringing those back into the rec center, and they will not be ruining my day. My aunt started throwing a fit, screaming, "This is a baby shower, it's for babies. Cousin is having a baby too, so this day is about her too." My cousin now joins the screaming and says how pissed off she is that everything is always about me, and why do we always have to be happy for me? They would not stop screaming, so they were kicked out by the rec center's security. And half our family was upset that I wouldn't let her have a moment at my shower, so they left too. Now everyone is bashing my mother, myself, and Rainbow Baby on Facebook, group family texts, anything at all. The next story is titled, Messy Guest Trashed Their Room. I sent evidence of their messy lies home with them. Hey, today I did something out of nothing but pettiness, but I feel I've done the right thing in the long run. Don't get me wrong, this was done purely for my own satisfaction, but reflecting, I feel I'd want to know this sort of thing if I was in guest GF's shoes. I recently started a new job as a housekeeper at a popular chain hotel, and while I'm enjoying it, the vomit rooms from stag do's, etc. really irritate me. They always somehow manage to get it on the only carpeted area of the room, and it puts me behind schedule having to scrub out the carpet. This one room today really took it to the next level. Rubbish scattered about, food jammed down the sides of the bed, as well as vomit patches all over the room. It took a while to get through all the mess, but towards the end of cleaning, I found a birthday card addressed to the guest on the floor. The card was open and read, "Happy birthday, guest. I love you so much. Have a great birthday weekend away. I'm going to miss you so much. Love, Beth." I picked up the card to bin it, and when I closed it, I saw the front read, "To my amazing boyfriend on his birthday." My eyebrows immediately raised. I had just picked up multiple condom wrappers, seen the used ones in the bin, as well as finding a pair of used women's underwear and a torn dress in the sheets. I was originally going to throw the dress and underwear away, as they were both clearly torn beyond wear, and the guest had most likely intended for me to do that. But damn, I was mad about that vomit and crusty food. This poor girl has been cheated on by a man who trashed the hotel room, but luckily for her, he pissed me off. I took the torn dress and underwear down to reception and logged them into our lost and found with the room number attached. Our system always sends a copy of lost item emails to the emergency contact as well, just in case the guest misses the email. The cheater and his emergency contact will soon receive a friendly email with a photograph of the forgotten items and a description of what they are and where they were found in the room. Who is his emergency contact? His girlfriend, Beth. If you're going to cheat on your SO, don't piss off the housekeeper. The next story is titled, "I deliver food to a lady and she wants me to pay for it." So this happened recently, so the details are fairly sharp. Just some basic disclaimers on phone, English is not my first, you know it by now. In the country where I live, you can order food online and decide to pay online or by cash. Once you order, someone on a moped or bike delivers it to your house. I was a bike deliverer, and someone ordered some huge order for around 40 euros. It was a rainy day, and it was almost at the end of my shift, so I was already agitated before even hearing of the order. All the mopeds were already on a delivery, so I, on a bike, had to cycle 5 kilometers to her address in the rain. Once I get to her house, I'm soaked and even more angry because when I go up to the door, some random guy opens up. This woman put in the wrong address, and I needed to cycle for another 2 kilometers. Once I get to her actual house, I had to wait for her to open the door, and then the most typical Karen you can think of opens the door, and I'm now knowing what she was going to do. She was going to try and get her food for free by telling me her food was cold. M. Me. I. Idiot woman. B. Boss. M. Hi, you ordered? I. Yeah, that took a while. M. Yeah, I got the wrong address. Doesn't matter, I'm here, and so is your food, with my best fake smile. I. That's great. Rips the food out of my hand. M. You still need to pay me 40 euros. I. The food is cold. M. Of course, it's raining and you made me go to the wrong address. I. That's not my problem. M. It sorta is. I. Well? M. Well what? I. Are you going to give me new warm food? M. I can't just make warm food in front of your house. I. You better find a way or I'm going to call your boss. I've actually been on the phone with my boss the whole time. He's a ducking legend. He drinks beers with me and knows I'm low on money, so he always finds a way to put in more hours than I worked. I had earplugs in, wasn't being that rude. Go ahead. He'll gladly tell you that I can't make food in front of your house and that you need to wait for a long time for your food. I. But I want my food now. I can't help that. It's food now or your food is cold. I. But I want my food warm and now. No need to start yelling at me. I'm going to call your boss and tell him that you're being rude. You can come in and hear what he has to say. I gladly step into the house to avoid the rain because it was still raining and there was no roof above the house. I put her phone on speakers. B. Hello, boss here. What can I do for you? I. Yeah, hello. I have a very rude delivery guy. B. Could you tell me your address? She tells her own address. B. I don't have an order at that address. M. She put the wrong address. It's under Tell's address where the order was placed. B. Yeah, I see it now. That is 2 kilometers away. I. Yeah, but the food is cold. B. That doesn't surprise me. I. So? B. So? I. Where is my warm food? B. That needs to be made. I. How long will that take? B. About 40 minutes. It's really busy. I. But I want my food now. B. Can't do that, miss. M. Sorry, miss, but you're gonna have to wait. I. Boss, he also forced entry into my house? M. No, I didn't. I. Yes, you did. M. You invited me in. I. You made the whole floor wet. M. Yeah, it's raining outside. I. I'm not gonna pay for my food now. M. Well, this still needs payment. I. You're going to pay for it. M. No, I'm not. I. Well, I'm not either. B. Ma'am, calm down. I. No, you guys are attacking me. B. If you don't calm down, you're not going to get any food at all. I. Duck you. B. Me, get out of the house. Idiot woman, you're not going to get any food from us anymore. After I left the house, I took the food, by the way. The woman yelled some crap after me. The boss got back on the phone with me and told me I could eat the food, which was still sort of warm. Once I got back, he threw a beer at me and told me I could go. The lady called the store a couple of times and screamed at my boss. Hope I never see you again, idiot. The next story is titled, Karen Demands Free-Wrapped Scone as a Fly Touched It. Now, before I start, I'm not fully sure if this belongs here, so tell me if it's not. So, I go to a market with my mom any Friday that I can, and one day I'm managing the baked goods, and here comes Karen, haircut and all. As she's browsing our goods, she starts this conversation. Cast, me equals me. K equals Karen, M equals mom. K. A fly touched that scone, so can I just take it for free? Me. No, you can't, as we put cling film across our baked goods so flies can't touch them, and they only touch the cling film. K. But I saw it, so just give me the scone. The scone was literally 80 cents, by the way. Mom comes back. M. What's going on? Me. I was just saying... Karen cuts me off. K. A fly touched this scone, and I kindly asked to take it for free, and your kid snapped at me. Mom knew I wouldn't do that, so said the same thing I did about our scones being wrapped. K. But I literally saw it on the scone. That's when I had the genius idea to maliciously comply. Me. Are you sure a fly touched that scone? K. Yes, that's what I've been saying. Me. Okay, I proceed to pretend to put the scone in a bin. I really dropped it in a box so I could have it later. K. What did you do that for? I wanted that scone, you idiot. Me. Miss, please calm down. We have a rule where if a fly touched a product, we bin it. K. Now visibly annoyed. I wanted that scone. Give me another one for free. Me. Miss, I'm not giving up a free scone. They're literally 80 cents. Karen then stomps off complaining, and I decided to take out that exact scone and eat it. God, revenge tastes good. The next one is an entitled people story. I work with a large organization having multiple branches in every state across the country. I am the head of one such branch. My boss, the regional manager, controls around 15 such branches in a region cluster. During August this year, I had asked my boss for a 5-day leave for September, which he had promptly granted. I then informed HR about it, suggesting him to temporarily arrange for somebody to run my branch for the week. This was required because, 1. Due to some corporate directives, some of the branches, including mine, could not run without a branch head being physically present in the office. 2. Enabling someone from inside the branch to substitute for me wasn't possible due to technicalities. HR assured me there was plenty of time to arrange for my temporary substitute. So, I didn't think much about it, since anyway it was his job to take care of in case of leaves. My dumb ass didn't imagine it would be crucial to get the leave approved formally / in writing, because before this, nobody had ever faced something like what I was about to experience. Come the last working day before I go on my leave, I asked our HR about who would take care of my branch in my absence. He flatly stated that there was no one available in the region cluster who he could depute to my branch in my stead, as many employees in our region are on leave because of festivities this week. Me. You're telling me this now? Anyway, I fail to understand how that is my problem, given that my leave was already granted a month ago. HR. Have a discussion with the RM, my boss. I called him up. Apparently, the HR had already had a talk with him regarding this matter before I even called him. RM. How could you intend to go on a leave during this time when we're already under so much pressure due to this sudden staff shortage? On top of that, our company's audit is due next month. Me. But you had already approved my leave 1 month ago. RM. No, I'm sure I must have said that I would think about it. Me. Absolutely not. I wouldn't have booked my tickets and planned my travel to my hometown to see my parents if you hadn't confirmed the leave. This went to and fro a while, and I was exasperated from this argument. By the end, I felt really humiliated that I had to almost beg for a leave. Me. Fine, I won't go. At this point, I arguably felt my dignity was more important than a few days off work. RM. Huh? Okay. He was at a loss of words at my sudden giving up. So, my leave stood cancelled. My tickets had to be cancelled. Money wasted. And I was left utterly exhausted of this bullcrap. A few days later, we got a notification for the yearly interstate staff soccer tournament being arranged by corporate. If selected, I'd be playing for my state, and the tournament, from selections till the final, would go on for a month. Soccer happens to be one of my favorite sports. So, guess who just applied and got selected in the state team? Now, here's the funny thing about sports and activities that are arranged by our company's corporate center. The top management takes these seasonal events very seriously. If you're a participating employee, nothing or nobody on this planet could make you rather go back to sit on your chair and mind your job instead of participating. So, as it appeared, although not on a leave per se, but I was all set to go on a month-long tour across the country playing soccer without having to worry about managing a branch and getting paid in the process. Even irrespective of my leave fiasco, this was a damn good thing to get involved in. As some of you have expressed a curiosity, yes, extravagant events like these are not unheard of in big/Fortune 500 companies. My organization is a large conglomerate and the third largest employer in our country. Still, it always beats my logic that they can spare some 150 to 200 employees for a month for fun, yet there are some regions that are plagued with staff scarcity. My boss's office was eventually informed about my participation in the event and was advised to excuse the participant from his duties till the tournament was over. The day before leaving, I drove down to the RM's office to formally inform him, from my end, about my competing in the event and my ensuing month-long absence that is to be expected. He looked expressionless and just feebly asked me, "Why did you really participate?" Me. Well, you see, had I happened to be at my hometown on a short leave this week, I wouldn't have been able to participate in the tournament at all, or even try for the selections. Sad I couldn't go on that leave. The defeated look on his face was priceless. The next story is titled, "Neighbors Constantly Trespass and Steal on My Property. Report me to HOA for installing electric fence." It all started when I was a young and carefree single professional, working hard and enjoying the fruits of my labor. However, my life took a dramatic turn when I landed a fantastic job and moved into a seemingly perfect gated community. Little did I know that the neighborhood was governed by an HOA, Homeowners Association. I was unaware of the strict rules and regulations, fines for violating community rules, and even instances of corruption that came with living in an HOA neighborhood. One day, I adopted a friendly boxer from the animal shelter who quickly became my constant companion. We would go on walks and play in the park, but one day I forgot to bring him inside before going to work. I received a notification that he was wandering down the street and quickly headed over to check on him. To my horror, I found that my front gate was open, my mailbox was empty, and my beloved light brown rocking chair was missing. I was determined to find out who was responsible for the theft and bring them to justice. My neighbor informed me that she had seen a suspicious family moving a white rocking chair into their house, so I placed a security camera on my porch and started leaving tempting items outside my front door. And it worked! I was able to capture the family on video, stealing my belongings. I approached my neighbors and shared my findings with them. Together, we began gathering evidence against the corrupt family and the HOA. We were determined to follow all the rules and regulations so they wouldn't suspect a thing. And finally, the day of reckoning arrived. We called a neighborhood meeting and presented our evidence to the HOA board. To our surprise, the HOA president was involved in the corrupt scheme and was caught red-handed. The family was banned from the neighborhood and the HOA board was disbanded. This experience was a turning point in my life. It taught me the importance of doing thorough research and being aware of the challenges that come with living in an HOA neighborhood. It also taught me the power of persistence and teamwork. I learned that standing up for what is right and speaking out against injustice is a powerful thing. The journey was not easy, but it was worth it. Years passed, and I eventually got married, had children, and started my own business. But that experience remained a pivotal moment in my life and one that I would never forget. It taught me that even in the face of adversity, with determination and unity, we can achieve great things. The next story is titled, Entitled Airline Passenger Tried Helping Themselves to My Upgraded Seat. I used to fly for work a lot. I have so many entitled people stories, it stopped surprising me to run into the behavior. This is one such story. Cast. Me, myself, and I equals me. EP equals entitled person. FA equals flight attendant. Being someone that used to fly a lot, I constantly was upgraded to business class, first class, or simply just upgraded seats using miles. Since this was a connection for me, I arrived and boarded later than most of the plane. As soon as I walked into the plane, I saw someone was sitting in my seat since I had been upgraded. Now, if you fly enough, someone sitting in your seat is not an uncommon occurrence. Me. Excuse me, I believe you're in my seat. EP. Does not even bother looking up at me, waves his hand dismissively at me and said, let's just switch seats so I can sit beside my wife. Me. Sure. What is your seat? EP. Snickerdoodle. Now, I don't remember exactly what seat number he said, but it was the last row of the airplane. Aisle seat. Right by the bathroom. Yes, I have had to fly in those seats in the past. Remember, my assigned seat was in the first class/business class section. Now, I have switched seats with people innumerable times in my life without a second thought. Even first class seats. The look of someone getting to unexpectedly ride first class is priceless. But the way this guy was behaving and what he was expecting, this was not one of those times. Me. No. I'm just gonna sit in my assigned seat. Now, he finally looked at me. EP. Well, I want to sit by my wife, so I'm not moving. Me. Well, if you want to sit by your wife, I'm sure whomever is sitting way back there would be more than happy to switch seats way up here so you can sit back there with your wife. He didn't like that at all, for what could he really say at that point without sounding like a jerk? He just stared at me. Me, now annoyed. Move. EP. I am not moving. Ding. Darn right I pushed the call button. FA. Yes, sir, how may I help? I hand her my ticket and say that he's sitting in my seat. She asks for his ticket, checks both tickets, sees his seat number, and, in my mind at least, gave him a look of, seriously? FA. Sir, you need to sit in your assigned seat. EP. I want to sit beside my wife. Well, I wasn't missing a beat and parroted my original statement about me being sure whomever was sitting back there beside him would be more than happy to switch seats and sit up here. Boy oh boy, that obviously made him angry. FA looks at EP's wife and says, Ma'am, would you like to switch seats so you can sit by your husband? EP's wife. No. FA continues in that all too familiar flight attendant voice that lets you know you have no choice. Well, sir, you have to sit in your assigned seat, so please gather your things. What a sad and pathetic sight it was seeing this grown man act like a baby, gather his things, and then sulk towards the back of the plane. Yes. His wife sat beside me that flight and didn't join her husband in the back of the plane. No, we didn't talk to or look at each other even once, which was perfectly fine with me. Imagine dismissively expecting someone to give up their first class/business class seat to sit in the very last row of the airplane by the bathroom. The next story is titled, EM Tries to Force Me to Leave the Park Because She Is Convinced My Little Sister Is Actually My Daughter. There's a 10.5-year age gap between me and my little sister. When I was a teen, I often used to take her to the local park to give my mom a break or give her time to get some housework done, etc. At the time this story happened, I was 15. It was Wimbledon season, so my mom asked me to take my sister to the park for a few hours so she could watch it in peace. She gave me some money so we could get some fish and chips in town and some ice cream at the park. There was usually an ice cream van there. So we got some fish and chips, went to the beach for a bit to buy mom extra time, and then we headed to the park. As we approached the park gate, this EM who was dragging along her child glared at me. EM. You should be ashamed. I look around, but there was nobody else she could have been talking to. Dumbfounded, I blankly pointed to myself, as if to affirm she was talking to me. EM. Girls these days are such sluts, opening their legs to anyone who asks. Who got you knocked up? Or let me guess, you don't know? I stared blankly at her for a minute. Me. This is my little sister. EM rolled her eyes and leered at me. EM. Yeah, we had little sisters in my day, too. I just said, okay, bye, and walked away because I was uncomfortable with conflict and just wanted out of that situation. EM.
Don't you dare go into the park. You'll spread your filthy diseases all over the park. I don't want my son catching your diseases. I ignored her and rushed into the park. Surely she'd leave me alone when I was surrounded by other kids and parents, right? Wrong. EM followed me around the park, demanding that I leave. The more I ignored her, the madder she got, and she kept repeating over and over, get out, you're not allowed here. At this point, a few parents noticed. One mom, let's call her FM, friend mom, who my mom and I often chatted with, immediately stood and rushed over just as EM grabbed my arm and yanked at me. FM. Why are you grabbing a child? Let her go. Who are you? EM. Mind your ducking business. FM. Let her go or I'm calling the police. EM let me go, but turned her anger towards FM, shouting that she was just making the park safe for her child, and I shouldn't be here because I might spread some nasty disease all over the place. She never specified what disease. I'm guessing she meant an STI or something? More parents started coming over to see what was going on. Seeing she was outnumbered, EM eventually left, dragging her child behind her, screaming obscenities at us as she slinked away. FM gave us a lift home to make sure we were safe. When I told my mom what happened, she was furious. She packed us into the car and drove us around town to look for the woman, but we didn't spot her. Thankfully, I never saw the woman again. The last story is titled, Mother Refused Free Drink at Amusement Park for Nothing. Short. This happened yesterday at our local amusement park. I was going to get a refill on our drink cups when a Karen came waving a receipt. Both the refill station guy and I looked puzzled, so I let her go in front of me. I had a feeling this was going to get nuts, and I wanted a front row seat. DG is drink guy. K. Karen. K. I'm here to get my free refill. As you can see, I bought a cup. DG. That's fine. Where's your cup? K. I lost it, but I have the receipt right here, so give me a new cup. DG. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're not responsible if you lose your cup. I can give you a small soda, but I can't give you a new cup. K. A small soda? This is BS. I paid for a reusable cup, and I demand a new one. At this point, I see a boy around 13 or 14 come walking up. I'm thinking it's just a kid who's getting a fresh drink. Boy, I was wrong. This kid said, Mom, did you want some more? The DG looked at the receipt and asked how many cups she got. She said only one. My park has 2 colored cups for refill cups. For a single day, you get a green, and for a full year, it's orange. The receipt said 1 single day refill cup, and what does the son have? A green cup. DG. Excuse me, kid, did your mom get you that cup? Karen turns red face and pushes her son out of line and tries to hide in a passing school group. I just look at my mom and said, see, this is what we call a Karen.
The next one is an entitled people story.
I'm currently working in a factory, and a couple weeks ago, we moved into a new building. This new building was originally made specifically for my shift. However, the longer shift has claimed it as theirs as they work longer. Fair enough. The supervisor for the longer shift is a pain in the ass. She takes pictures of how the desks were left, and if anything has moved in the slightest, she complains. Any mistakes? She complains, even though they make more mistakes. In her recent rampage, directed at our shift supervisor, she kicked me from the desk I've been using as I make too much mess, and was told I have to work on the other side of the benches with everyone else. I have never left the desk in a mess. I always swept the entire side of the floor, as I'm the only one who worked that side. Always filled all the tubs of screws and things up, just always kept it how it was left. When I came in the next week, she had left loads of her stuff on my new desk. Paperwork, light fittings, pencils, she'd plugged chargers into the plugs, and it was at this point that I decided that none of their stuff would be allowed on my desk. It had to be left exactly as it was, and I've started taking pictures. The other side of the benches remains untouched by our shift, and has started to accumulate huge piles of dirt, and the bins have become mountains. She asked why that side hasn't been cleaned, so I told her if I'm not allowed to work there, I won't be cleaning it, as it's not my mess. She's not happy, but knows there's nothing she can do. The next story is titled, Become the Worst Neighbor and HOA Board Member Ever? Lose Your Job in HOA. Let me start by saying never purchase a house in an HOA. It is a complete mess that should be regulated and illegal. If I knew about HOAs when I bought my first home, I would have never purchased my first home in one. Me and my wife purchased our first home when we were 24 and 25. We spent months looking at houses in areas and tried to find a forever home in a good district for potential future kids, etc. We finally found a perfect one at a decent price. At first, everything was great. Super nice neighborhood and decent neighbors. Well, a few months after buying the house, we rented an RV to go on a trip and parked it in the driveway for the 3 days leading up to the trip to pack it and for me to learn how half the things in it worked. Well, this is when we learned that HOAs are absolutely crazy, and our neighbor was on the board of our local HOA. Within an hour of it being parked, he got home and stormed over demanding we remove it from his neighborhood, or he would have it towed and fine us for every hour it was there. Myself, being the average and normal person, told him kindly to duck off and get out of my driveway, and told him if he returns, I'll call the cops because he was screaming like a madman an inch from my face. About 3 hours later, a big rig tow truck shows up, and he walked up like he was a god and handed me a plain envelope with a letter inside that pretty much said, by order of the HOA, this RV is to be towed, and a fine of $1,500 for violating their rules. While Mr. Crazy board member might not listen to reason, the tow truck guy they found wasn't so fond of entering my driveway and towing a vehicle when I told him if he comes on the property, I'll call the cops. Once the tow truck driver decided he's done being involved in this mess and left, neighbor goes even more crazy and storms off. I call my friend to get his dad's number because he's an attorney to ask him about this insane letter and fine I just received and to ask him some legal advice. After speaking to his father, he told me to come down, write him a $500 check, and bring along all the papers I received when purchasing the home and the current letter I just received. The next day, he had a very friendly letter sent to my neighbor and the HOA board, basically telling my neighbor to duck himself in legal terms and to leave us and our property alone. I then continued to receive fines of $1,500 a day in plain envelopes, not postmarked, stuffed into my mailbox that I then turned over to my friend's father, and each time he sent another set of letters and contacted USPS to report the incidents. Turns out putting mail into people's mailbox is a crime. Who knew? Well, we decided to go on our week-long trip across the state and mildly forget about it all. Kind of upset I had to spend $500 to have an attorney send letters, but that's what they do. Fast forward to us returning from the trip and the RV back in our driveway for 2 days so we can unload/clean, then return it. Again, each day, more envelopes stuffed into our mailbox and more visits to our attorney and more letters sent and more incidents reported to USPS. Well, here's where the fun really begins. Turns out Mr. Crazy finally gives me a summons to appear before the board. My attorney said this is crazy illegal because what they've done is use what looks like an actual legal document improperly to summon me to the board. Another $500 to the attorney, and we wait for the date they made, a Tuesday at 10 a.m. They attempt to keep my attorney out of the room on some board privacy rule, but quickly shut the hell up when he begins going over their own rules that they are violating to them. Deep in this HOA book, there are some very nicely worded rules and stuff outlining about what makes board members ineligible and how they cannot serve if they commit certain infractions. Well, guess what Mr. Crazy Neighbor has done? Committed several of them, all documented. Also, the cherry on top is that if 51% of the HOA members vote to dissolve the HOA, it all goes away. Well, it happens my wife worked part-time from home during this mess and had all the free time in the world to begin a disband the HOA campaign. Over the course of the next 2 months, she went around and really began to get to know our neighborhood really well. Turns out a lot of people dislike the HOA and the power-hungry seniors who act like dictators that run it. The HOA attempted to stall everything by holding no meetings, another HOA violation, and began their own campaign trying to change HOA rules to keep from being ousted, and a fairly racist flyer and letter to everyone explaining the dangers of not having an HOA and all the bad people, blacks and Mexicans, that will move in and take over/sell drugs, etc. That our houses would become much less valuable and everything else they could try. Turns out it's extremely fun to use someone's own rules against them. The neighborhood even started a fund that paid us back what it cost us to get the attorney started and the continued costs he had. A few weeks after their failed fear campaign and being forced to hold a meeting, a vote was called by using their own rules. The HOA was no more, and all remaining funds were to be dispersed back to the homeowners and members equally. This never happened. It turns out somehow the HOA used all their funds in the course of the last 2 months. About half the former board members sold their homes and moved, including Mr. Crazy Neighbor. I've spent 3 hours trying to find old news articles because it was reported on mostly due to the racist letters by the HOA. But it was too long ago to find anything. Moral of the whole mess, don't buy a home in an HOA, and if you do, plan to hire an attorney. The last story is titled, Vindictive Ex-Wife Illegally Signed Application to Local HOA in My Name. I'll start this off by saying my ex is vindictive as hell. We've been fully divorced since about right before the pandemic started. We sold the house we shared and I didn't have to pay her alimony because she cheated and we're in an at-fault state. It was messy since D-Day. All of the stereotypes. First the sobbing, and then trickle truth saying, I love you, it was just one time, okay, it was 2 years. And then the gaslighting followed by, I'm going to take you for everything, before packing her crap and walking out. I feel like I never really knew the woman my ex was in all the time we were together. We were married 5 years and together for 7. And in 2 of those 5 married years, she had affairs with 3 other men. The final one being a foreign businessman of some sort from what I could find out. Yes, I got tested for STDs and was thankfully negative. Yes, she got pregnant by the final AP, and no, I didn't sign the birth certificate because I found out about all affairs before the baby was born thanks to a call from the first AP. My ex tried to go full scorched earth on me. But since we live in and were married in an at-fault state, she lost. We didn't pay equally into our house and the equity was divided 70-30. So I got a pretty good cash payout when I sold our marital home to put as a down payment on a different house closer to my job. It's a bit of a downgrade, but suits a single guy in his 30s like me just fine. My ex did show up to my house once, but I refused to let her in. She idioted at me that I'd financially ruined her in the divorce. I said that if she was fully willing to do that to me first, and the idiot had the audacity to say it should have been my life ducked over and not hers. I laughed so hard and said it was karma. She yelled that she'd sue me for what was rightfully hers. I said if she was going to sue me, then to go ahead and sue me. It'd end up the same way in court because she has nothing but a false sob story. She was the cheater, not me. I'm no angel, but I didn't do anything to her, and she was the one who ruined our marriage. She then said she'd tell everyone she could that I abused her. I said I'd sue her for defamation if she did, and I was recording our interaction and had those words saved to my phone. She went wide-eyed and her jaw dropped. The look people are calling the surprised Pikachu face. Then I asked why she was there, if not to just try and make trouble. Because she had a new man in her life that knocked her up. She just huffed at me and said he isn't around much and she's stuck in a tiny apartment living off his child support till he comes back. It was immature of me, I know, but I did the bit of playing the world's smallest violin. She yelled at me to go duck myself, and I yelled back that I'd sooner do that than her any time. She raged at me and then got in her car to leave. Haven't seen her since. There is an HOA in my neighborhood, but I was not legally obligated to join it because the last owner of my house was not a member. I made sure of that through a real estate lawyer as well. The HOA had no grounds to force me to join and were not happy about it. The HOA president would show up with forms every week for the first month, demanding I sign them. Then she threatened to take me to court, to which I had to get a C&D sent to her from my lawyer to make her stop that. So she started harassing me by looking for any infractions she possibly could to report to the city. An inspector came out several times and found nothing wrong. In fact, I offered one of them a burger while grilling, and they graciously accepted. Did I mention the HOA hates barbecues and parties that aren't approved in advance? Well, they do. And I like to grill when the weather is good. And my neighbors actually love me for it because I invite them over. I had the police called on me several times for noise complaints because I was playing music on a Saturday afternoon while having my friends over. The HOA president I caught trespassing once when she was trying to peer into my windows. I called the police, but she denied ever doing it. So I got cameras. She hasn't trespassed since. But I still got repeated passive-aggressive letters saying my cameras were not an approved addition to my house. Some months ago, I started getting letters for fines in the mail. And when I contacted the HOA, the representative claimed they had it on record that I joined and needed to pay all fees effective immediately. I told them that was not possible. Then they emailed a scanned copy of the forms and they had a signature on them, but it was not mine. It was very similar in some ways, and I recognized it right away as being my ex's handwriting. She knew what my signature looked like, but it was a loose imitation at best. I got in touch with a lawyer right away over the forged signature. But the HOA still demanded to go to court, and it took 7 months before that happened. Meanwhile, they were stacking unpaid fines against me weekly and were threatening to put a lien on my house. We went to court and the HOA president looked very smug. But my lawyer pointed out how the signature wasn't the same as mine and was very inconsistent in the various forms. I'd never allowed the HOA president in my house, and I'd never requested the forms. The idiot HOA president actually slammed her palm on the table and said it was still binding, but when pressed where the fraudulent signature came from, she admitted my ex-wife called the HOA and they sent her the forms, then got them back in the mail signed. But then she actually claimed she'd thought I'd signed them. The judge looked at her and asked if she was serious. She confirmed she was. The judge then asked how a woman I was no longer married to, that had never even lived with me in my current residence, was supposed to have any bearing on whether or not I joined her HOA. She went quiet, and I could see the oh crap look on her face as the hamster wheels were turning, and she seemed to finally mentally put the pieces together. My lawyer then counterclaimed that what the HOA did was blatant fraud and legal actions must be taken. And they were. I countersued the HOA for the emotional distress of the harassment I'd gotten since moving in, which I had lots of proof of. That won me about 10 grand after lawyer fees that I decided to put towards my mortgage. The HOA president was removed from her throne. I like to think that she was kicking and screaming. She was also slapped with a hefty fine. I've seen her outside a few times and she always looks at me like I am the devil. The HOA itself had to pay all of my legal fees too. I wanted to go after my ex for forging my signature, but can't because not long after she forged my signature on those forms, she apparently left the country to be with her third AP. She's somewhere in Europe from what I can see of the final posts on her FB before she disappeared. So I can't do anything against her unless she ever returns to the US. So that was a wash. I'm not getting letters from the HOA anymore though, and the new president has promised to keep things completely cordial from now on. I still don't feel like I got much of a win in this though. Other than the 10K payout, it all felt like a huge waste of time. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.